All right, so we are doing comparison chart between the north and the south. Okay, so you're going to open your textbook to page 355 to 379, or you can go to TCI. And I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're probably going to be using TCI. So if you go to Clever, and when you get to Clever, you should already know how to do this, but I'll assume some of you forgot. Okay. So once you get there, go up to the search bar and just search TCI. And it looks like this, purple. Open it up. Okay. You're going to want to go to lesson 19. And we're going to the chapter that says the worlds of North and South. Make sure you have it on the textbook and not the notebook or the lesson game. Okay, so when you look at the book, you're going to see this page on page 355. All right? We talked about the cotton gin. Okay, what does the cotton gin do? Good, it takes out the seeds of the cotton. But keep going. Good, it was faster than 10 slaves could do all day. One slave could do the work of 10 slaves, and they could do it in one, okay? So it's a machine that replaces workers, and it pulls the seeds out and cleans the cotton. So this allowed for more cotton to grow because it was easier to grow it. Now, let's take a look at your paper and see all the things you have to find, and then I'll show you in your book where you can find them. I ask you one last time to let me talk without you talking in the background. None. So, looking at this, you've got different categories. You've got the category of North and South. Now, the first thing it has on here is geography, climate, and natural resources, right? You know what it doesn't have? What I should have added to this, because apparently this is the old one that I printed. Which state? Does it? Okay, mine doesn't. It doesn't say in this box which states. So I want you to add the states and list the states out. Yes, you can write them up here. Shh. Guys, just listen. I'll go over all of it, I promise. Okay? So if you just stop looking at your book and listen for a second. So you're going to complete the comparison chart on the North and South before the Civil War. We're looking at the period really of 1820 to 1860. And a lot changed in those 40 years. We're going to look at the geography, the climate, and natural resources. What does the Earth look like in the North, and what does the Earth look like in the South? Okay, think about growing seasons and snow and how much land mass they have, okay? Now, the North today is bigger than it was when we last compared the North and the South. So we're going to have more states to add to it. The economy, how people are making money, what major inventions impacted this. Inventions are going to be things like the cotton gin, which needs to be on there somewhere, okay? And the cotton gin changed a lot. I want to know what changed after the invention of the cotton engine or cotton gin. We also had things like the steam engine being created, and the steam engine allows for powered vehicles. You can power what kind of vehicle with a steam engine? A train. You could power a steamboat. So this is where we're going to start seeing more like vehicles that are powered. What makes the steam in a steam engine? Coal. They burn coal. The coal, fossil fuels. The coal boils the water. The steam from the water propels the vehicle. Okay, today they're electric, but they were in the past. Steam engines, so think railroads, canals. They're going to be way more in the north. Okay, but the impact of the cotton gin, I mean, the cotton gin gets invented in 1794. By 1820, the issue of slave versus free is so heated. When 20 years before that, there was not even an argument. There was almost an idea that slavery wasn't profitable and they should quit it. And then all of a sudden in comes the cotton gin. And now we can grow cotton, which has great prices overseas. And we can grow tons of cotton in the South. And this is also after the slave importation clause. So we went for about 1 million slaves in 1800 to about 4 million slaves by 1860. In 40 years, we added 3 million slaves. And those slaves were added by breeding, not by buying slaves from Africa. And I think that you need to remember that impact, okay? So railroads, canals, steam engines, right? Or what was a steam locomotive? That's a railroad. And we could say the steamboats. You know what other things were invented? Things like the sewing machine was invented. Okay? We start to see factories popping up. The Industrial Revolution. Manufacturing, what does that mean? Making things, yes. So factories manufacture. A factory is something that takes factions and puts them together. Factions are parts, right? Manufacturing is manually putting things together. It's like manu, hand. Okay, now this is just the iceberg. I'm just trying to go over this with you out of what you already know. And some of this is in your book, and you're going to have some time to go through this. What major inventions impacted this? How did these inventions change the economy? That's the part you need to figure out. How did these inventions lead to a change in economy? Now, what I'm saying is that the cotton gin allowed in so many ways allowed us to fight Tecumseh for that land, to send Andrew Jackson during the War of 1812. We sent Andrew Jackson and William Henry Harrison out to cleanse the land, which is the ethnic cleansing in the United States, to cleanse the land of Indians, so that we could expand the territory into ours. All that land was earmarked to be Southern land. All that land's earmarked to be cotton land. Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia are going to become cotton fields. Eastern Texas, cotton fields. Okay? So what we see is the cotton gin fuels war, it fuels genocide, it fuels ethnic cleansing, all in an effort to get more land, to plant more cotton, which then fuels breeding of slaves so that you have people to pick the cotton. Yeah. Yes, one person could spin the cotton gin. Well, you see, mechanization is happening. Okay, we're starting. It's gonna take time for that to happen. All right, but it's a process. But we start to see it's engineering, right? It's physics. If something clicks this, it's gonna turn. They've been making clocks for so long. Think about the clocks they've been making. And if we can make a clock that's powered by a battery, because essentially a clock is powered by a crystal that actually powers the battery, and we can use little metal pieces to make it function and make a machine. Clock is one of the earliest machines. But I mean, that's all going to lead to, flat screen touch things. It's pretty neat, isn't it? Okay. Now, the next part is on transportation. How did people and goods get from place to place? Describe the infrastructure. Infrastructure is like the structure in an area that makes it work. So on a farm, infrastructure might include tractors, it might include seed, it might include barns, right? But in a city, infrastructure would include roads, sewage systems, water. Think about railroads, canals, that kind of thing. I'll put a definition of infrastructure up for you. Ships would be, yes, if they build harbors and ports for the ships, yes, that is all part of infrastructure. Hey, so the South has enormous coastlines, but if they only have one or two ports, they lack infrastructure, where in New England, there are ports everywhere, okay? So let's take a look at what the word infrastructure, I had it up earlier. Hopefully I spelled it right. Yes. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, the infrastructure, leave her alone. Seriously, why you gotta say things to people? You didn't learn your lesson earlier today. Okay, infrastructure, read this with me. Shh. The basic Okay, so again, as I'm recording this and you forget, Lissandro, shh. The basic physical and organizational structures and facilities like buildings, roads, power supplies, hospitals, schools, the things that make our society work at the basic level. Police, fire rescue. They did not have the infrastructure we had today, but it was building. Remember the American system with Henry Clay? We talked about building roads, canals, okay, and making the banks. So we have the ability to start building infrastructure. Which region builds more infrastructure, the North or the South? Yeah, the North. Look at our chart. If we're going to have steam engines, railroads, canals, locomotives, steamboats, industrial revolution, manufacturing, then you're going to need, Sandro, stop. You're going to need ways to connect places together. You're going to see, when you do more on this, you're going to see iron mining and other kinds of agriculture, other kinds of activities that will be added to this, I suppose. But transportation is going to tie in with the inventions that impacted the economy. And you're going to need railroads to move goods between your own country. The North built way more railroads. The South built railroads that went to the rivers and that went to the coast. Why would the South do that? Why wouldn't they build a road that goes from one small town to another small town? Why would they only build roads that go from like plantation to the river? Well, no. What So you see more of this growing raw materials like cotton and exporting it out. So what we see in the South is like an export-oriented economy, whereas the North is highly industrialized. Okay? Got two more categories, or one more category. No, we got two. Sorry. Transportation. Okay, so the infrastructure, you really want to think about what's built up, how developed it is. Do they have the things they need to make a society function, or does society function on a smaller scale? And then the last one is society. What was life like for different groups of people? What was life like for the rich, wealthy plantation owners versus the poor white farmers versus the free blacks versus the enslaved blacks versus the immigrants that came in hordes to New York City and Boston during this time? The Irish immigrants, the Italian immigrants. So we've got mobsters in cities now too, okay? We've got big tenement houses in New York, giant apartments where we're trying to fill thousands of migrants who are coming in. Where are these migrants getting jobs in New York? No. In 1850, migrants were coming over and working in factories. Okay, so if you think about if the South is growing the cotton, where does the cotton go to be manufactured into cloth? Goes to the North, right? So the North wants to buy the cheapest cotton possible. So the North is not innocent of the issue of slavery. You understand? Okay, did we go over the three categories of people I had on the board yesterday? All right. So we've got society, right? Think about these groups. Think about women. How about Native Americans? They weren't given any place in society. Okay? That in many ways was almost worse than being a slave because they wanted to get rid of you. Okay? Here's the kicker, guys. You ready? On the back, create an illustration that depicts the characteristics of the North and the South. Use information from your chart to complete it. Don't copy the paintings from your textbook. And if you're wondering about what I mean for copy the paintings from your textbook, well, here are the paintings from your textbook. Do I want you to copy these two paintings? No. Well, I've had students try to copy some of them. Some of them drew scenes that looked similar. Okay, that one's different. That was for something else. Okay? So, do you have to draw like one landscape? No. Here's what I did. No, do not draw these pictures. You're going to draw your own picture. Gentlemen, hush. What I did is I started with the North. I started with climate and weather. Then I went to industry, and to show the relationship, this is my bad factory, to show the relationship between the North and the South, I put finest ship masts. What's the mast of a ship? We're manufacturing parts of ships, right? Do you think we might need cotton? Yes. Okay, so we might be importing cotton from the South. Then I drew roads with a wagon, because we don't have cars yet. I drew a canal with a crappy steamboat. I drew railroads, right? And then I drew a white person and a black person and put free. Now, I didn't finish this, but do you see what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be a work of art, but it should show me all of the categories on here. It should show me these categories. Okay, now, if you want, for the rest of the period, you can work together and you can go through this. You're going to go on to TCI, 19, lesson 19, and then when you go on to like section 1, shows the geography. Hey, can I ask you one more question? Where are you going to find the names of the states that are in the north and the names of the states that are in the south? It's not going to show it in the geography. You think it would, but that's going to talk about the natural landscape. But if I look at any of the other sections, if I look at any of the other sections in the book, it will give me a map. And the map is not only useful, but it should not be the only thing you use. It shows you agricultural products grown, and then it shows you all of your states. The yellow states are free states, and the purple states are slave states. Do you see the Missouri Compromise line? Look, here it is, the Missouri Compromise line. You drew it right on there, right? So I don't want the state abbreviations. I want the names of the states. Okay, so right.